Okay, let's talk about something we've all been through. You give a super smart friend or colleague the absolute perfect solution to their problem. The kind of advice they'd pay a consultant a fortune for, and they just nod and completely ignore it. So frustrating, right?
On the surface, it really does look like pure arrogance, doesn't it? Like they just think they're too smart for your help. But what if it's not about ego? What if it's about the literal mechanics of how their brain is wired to process information? The real question here is, why does perfectly good advice just seem to bounce right off a brilliant mind?
So here's where we need to reframe the whole problem. We usually see this through a social lens. We label it as stubbornness or arrogance. But the cognitive reality is way more interesting. It's not about them rejecting you. It's about their brain running a kind of logic protection program. This involves things like epistemic rigor, which is just a deep need for solid proof, and internal simulation, which we're about to get into. Okay, let's dive into the first big reason. And it's a really powerful mental tool. It's called the internal simulation. See, a lot of us might take advice because of who's giving it. If a respected expert says so, we figure it's probably true. But a highly analytical mind, they don't really operate on that kind of external authority. Instead, everything depends on their own internal reasoning. Their brain has to run the numbers for itself.
So when you give them advice, their brain isn't just sitting there listening. Oh no. It is actively running this incredibly complex, high-speed simulation. It's stress testing your idea against every possible outcome and weird edge case they can imagine. And if that simulation finds even one tiny flaw, just one, the entire idea gets thrown out. They're not trying to be difficult. Their brain has just calculated that your solution, as is, simply won't work for them.
And that leads us right into the second reason, which builds on that idea. It's a concept that people like Elon Musk are famous for, an absolute obsession with first principles. First principles thinking is all about breaking a problem down to its absolute, most basic truths, the things you know for sure, and then building your solution up from there. Think of it like this. It's the difference between just following a recipe versus actually understanding the chemistry of cooking. And here's the critical disconnect. Most of the advice we give in our daily lives is all about the process. It's a how-to guide, right? Just do this and then do that. But for a mind that runs on first principles, that how-to information is basically junk data. It's useless, unless it comes with the underlying why. If they can't see the fundamental logic, the raw data that got you to your answer, their brain literally can't process the advice. This analogy just nails it. Giving them advice is like handing them a map to one specific place. What they actually want is to understand the terrain itself, the physics, the gravity, the layout, so they can draw their own map to get anywhere they want. Okay, reason number 3 is all about their internal world. You could call it the burden of self-correction. What's going on here is a high level of what psychologists call metacognitive monitoring. Basically, they are constantly auditing their own thoughts. They are their own toughest critic, always running diagnostics on their own logic, hunting for bugs. And because they're so used to this process, they have this incredibly effective but very personal closed-loop system for solving problems. So when you offer external advice, it feels like an interruption. It's like someone grabbing the steering wheel while they're still trying to diagnose what's wrong with the engine. They have to arrive at the conclusion themselves to truly own that knowledge. And this explains that maddening thing we've all experienced, right? They shoot down your brilliant idea, and then, a few weeks later, they come back to you super excited, presenting your exact idea as if they just invented it. They didn't steal it. It's just that their internal process finally finished its run, and now, finally, they own it. All right, our last reason here builds on this whole idea of internal processing. It's all about a powerful and mostly unconscious mental filter. We all have something called latent inhibition. It's our brain's knack for automatically filtering out stuff it considers irrelevant. It's the reason you can tune out the hum of your refrigerator. While for highly intelligent people, this filter can become super tuned when it comes to information. So what has years and years of experience taught them? That generic, one-size-fits-all advice almost never works for the kind of complex, nuanced problems they love to tackle. They've been burned by simplistic advice too many times. So their brain builds up a protective wall, a filter that automatically flags most external tips as irrelevant noise. So after all that, what on earth do you do? How do you actually get through to someone like this? Well, the secret isn't about changing your advice. It's about changing your entire delivery. Think of it this way. Stop giving them a finished meal and start giving them the raw ingredients. So don't give them your conclusions, give them the raw data and let them connect the dots themselves. Don't give commands, give them a fascinating paradox or a puzzle that their brain can't help but chew on. And instead of how-tos, just ask better, more pointed questions that help them refine their own internal simulation. Ultimately, your goal isn't to hand them the answer. It's to give them the tools and the fuel for their own mental engine. You want to help them get to that aha moment, that really satisfying click when all the logic finally falls into place. Because that's when they'll actually act on it.
And that brings us to the end, so I'll just leave you with this to think about. After hearing all this, do you kind of see these patterns in yourself? Are you maybe the one who struggles with taking advice? Or does this finally make sense of that brilliant but sometimes infuriating person in your life? Something to chew on.